We're learning Hilchos Chametz U'Matzah Perek Hey Halacha Yudalad. Lo yishtei isos shehigbiu hayad mehen niloishes beis achas v'nishto. If he had two pieces of dough, that he picked his hand up from them at the same time, and they waited. Now let's see what it says here below. And ha'achas mehen yesh lo koil. One is has a voice and sounds like it's a simon that it became chometz. And the other doesn't have a krill. It would seem that it's not chometz staying yisoifu. They are a chometz gomo. They are both considered chometz. So the Rabbeinu Menachos explains, since the dough became chometz, the second one is also chometz, even though it doesn't give off a voice. Why doesn't it give off a voice? It's not a proof, because you see, one did become chometz. This is a makor in the Mishnah. Botzek acheresh. That the mute dough, if it has another one that's like it, that became chometz, it's also. And therefore, this is the same thing. You have two pieces. If one of them became also, the other one also became also. The Chazon Ish says that the Rambam explains that the mute dough is talking about that something became chometz. And he says that Tana says that if the botzig achorish is a simon that it became chometz, the other one must have also become chometz. And therefore the Gemara says, if there's nothing similar to it, we wait within 18 minutes. And the Rae Gann in Halacha Yud Gimel says, we don't know this situation, but rather the reverse. That as long as you strike it and you hear a clear noise, it's matzah. Chazon Ish explains, according to the Rae Gann, even if the other Isa that was done at the same time and he left it without working on it, the same amount of time like the first one, it could still be that one of them did not become chometz because the voice is clear. So according to the Rae Gann, he does the opposite, that if we know for sure that has a clear voice, it didn't become chometz. Therefore, according to the Rae Gann, a mute dough means you can't hear a clear voice from it, only a very hoarse or voice that sounds like it's in a cave. And this is not a proof of chimutz. Since you have to worry about chometz, therefore you have to check it with something else that's like it. But if there is such a dough, and that dough has actually cracked or become silvery, they're definitely both chometz. And when there is no other, we check if it was 18 minutes and then it becomes also. Halacha l'maisa. The Shulchan Aruch paskins, a person should not leave an isa without working it, even for one moment, like the Rambam. And as long as you work with it, even all day, technically it doesn't become chometz. And if you left it without work for 18 minutes, it's chometz. Now, this measure of a mill is a quarter of an hour, and it's a 20th and a 20th of an hour. Mishnah Berurah says together that's 18 minutes, meaning a quarter of an hour is 15 minutes, and 3 minutes is 1/20th of 60 minutes, so 3 and 15 is 18 minutes. Now, that's what we're talking about, a 16-minute hour. Therefore, a quarter of an hour is 15 minutes, and one section is 3. Together we have 18 minutes. Now, there are those who say that the shiur of a mill is a third of an hour, and it's 20 minutes. And a third of an hour, and it's 22 minutes and a half. That it's a third of an hour, which is 20 minutes, and another 15th of an hour, which is shlish of a shah, it would be 20 minutes plus these. This is the amount of 22 and a half minutes. This is the shiur as far as salting meat, to know for sure that the blood went out of it. That the basar should remain at least an hour in salt. Even b'diavad, the minimum is 24 or 23 minutes. Now, Chometz were machmir, that it became Chometz even in a shorter period of time of 18 minutes. The Bir Halacha wants to be lenient where there's a great loss of money. So you can rely on 24 and a half minutes, and that's for clear that only a Marara can poisik whether you can rely on that or not. Ramah adds that one should rush to make matzahs because we're afraid that if you stop even for a moment and then start again and you stop even for a few moments, the 18 minutes will add up like a shiur mill, and it became chometz. The Mishnah Berurah brings down the Chometz Hadeshnos of the opinion that when he's working on the dough, continuously beating it or rolling it, even if he waits a little bit and he continues, it doesn't add up. Because whenever he works it, that nullifies the previous lapse. But if he just does a little bit, and even though he's not doing a heavy work on it, in that time still, that does not nullify the gap, and if he'll wait further, they will add up together. But the Varil is more stringent in any case, even if you're working it hard. Therefore, you have to hurry. Hagos Maimonides tells us that Reish Lakish explains that how the distance of a mill is going from Migdal Nunya to Tveria. That was the measurement of a mill. But the Ezra Mitz says that this shiur is only where there's no fire or other things which will cause heat. Therefore, which will cause, otherwise they will cause it to become it's more in a faster fashion. Therefore, everything has to be looked at for the circumstances, and that's what the Mishnah Berurah writes as well. The Mechaber concludes, and after they were oisik in the dough, and it became hot in their hands, if you leave it without working on it, it'll become chometz right away. So the Mishnah Berurah says that after that they prepared it and they rolled it and they did everything, and you place it before the fellow who makes holes in it, because otherwise it blows up, and they should do it quickly right away into the oven, because once you've completed doing it, then it starts to become chometz even quicker, because the heat of the work, the friction, causes it to become hot. People are not careful with this, because miyad, what it means, the mechaber means not immediately. It means a very small period of time. But l'chatchila, one should be careful to do it, and try not to leave it even for a moment. Mechaber continues, and if they began two doughs to get at the same time, and one of them became chometz, then certainly the other one's also chometz, even if you don't see any signs that it became chometz. And if it became chometz till it has cracks in it, even if they don't mix, that's also called chometz. If you eat it chayes l'sholom yechayev koris, like the hachomim, that even if it's only karnei chagov, even if they go off in one direction, in two separate directions, it's still called chometz. And if it became silvery, meaning that it became whitish, like a person who is pale, then if you eat it, it's pot, because we're not sure it's chometz gomor. The Mishnah Berurah explains that you can't eat this, but you can have anor. Maybe it became pale enough to be chometz. Rabbeinu Benayach disagrees with the Rambam, that if it became silvery like a person who was pale, whose hair stood on end, it's forbidden to eat it. You don't get choris for it. He's of the opinion that you would get malchus on eating it, and it's also ba'ano. And the Rabbeinu Benayach says those who say that if you eat shiur you don't get malchus, because we have the opinion like Rabbanan, not like Rabbi Eliezer, who says that you get malchus since shiur is called chometz, nuksha. It's like chometz b'tarubas. All the Rabbanim of Chutz La'aretz, they said that there's no chiyuv of malchus on it. That ultimately most poskim say you're not chayiv malchus for this.